Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to the Animous. And to finish off the tutorial series for painting your models, we're going to go ahead and pen align these parts. We're going to go ahead and top coat these parts. Now I have already sprayed a little bit of light gloss on these parts. We are going to finish it with a matte finish, but we're going to do that after we pen align and apply our water slide decals. Now I had someone ask me, why didn't you do masking to paint additional metal details and anything like that on the parts? Well, the real reason is because I wanted to make sure that you all, while you're doing this tutorial, you focused on your technique and you focus on mastering your craft when it comes to painting and adding those additional shadings and details to your parts. When you start stacking up all these other techniques on top, it just makes it a little bit more complicated when somebody's learning. So this is more of a learning tutorial for those of you that are starting your journey by painting your models. Now I know that we've done tutorials before where I showed you how to mask your parts when you were painting details, or basically just trying to get that color separation. So these line of tutorials on how to paint your models, they're specifically for the skills to paint your model kits themselves. Whenever you add additional details to the part, then it's a whole different process. We would have to go ahead and mask the part, we would have to make sure we separate it, we cut everything needs to be done perfectly. But for the sake of these tutorials, this is just so you can focus on your technique on learning how to paint your models. So let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you that asked, these are the ones that I specifically use when I am pen aligning my models. Now there are also other colors, like for example, you do have the regular gray, which you can also use to highlight your lines. I prefer the dark gray, to be honest, with white parts. So, but that's just, like I said, that's just up to preference there. There are other accent liners out there. You can use, I believe Mr. Hobby uses like the washes and stuff like that, or you can make your own as well. Now, first I want to start with panel lining the yellow part. Now, I know that we started saying that we were going to paint this in a metallic color, but I did want to make sure that I showed you my shading technique when it came to painting that model. As you can see, you can see the colors as they fade from light to dark. And what I did was that I used different tones of yellow and orange, so that way I can get that finish there. Now, as we've covered in our panel lining tutorial before, you want to make sure that you don't let these pool. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to lightly apply it, make sure that it got good coverage from side to side. Just make sure I highlight those details really good. And then go from there. All right, everyone, so welcome back. So now that we have let the accent liners dry out, we're going to go ahead and start the process so we can go ahead and clean them out. Next steps after that, we're going to go ahead and apply some water slide decals, and then we'll go from there. So let's get started. Now, as you know, we've already gone through panel lining before in one of our other tutorial videos. Now for this part, you're going to need your swabs, and you're also going to need your remover. Now, this is always preference, but I've found that lighter fluid is probably the best one when it comes to painted parts because it doesn't damage your paint while you're removing it. Yes, of course, you do have to be careful. Like everything, you have to make sure that you do not use excess of it. It's just, just a small process where you're just dabbing the stain until it goes away, or the over paint while it goes away. So always be very careful when using any type of thinner, or if you're using lighter fluid to clean your parts so you don't damage your paint. All right, so now that we have gone ahead and, like I mentioned before, cleaned the parts, we went ahead and put the shield together, and this thing is looking awesome. If you already look at the depth that the pre-shading has given the parts, you can definitely see the change from the actual stock shield like you saw in the other videos. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is this is not going to be its final look. We will go ahead and top coat this as soon as we go ahead and apply the decals there. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Now for the water slide decals, I usually use one of these. These things are like $1 or so in AliExpress. You can probably find some. This thing brings like a sponge inside, and it's supposed to be for like watercolor or painting with your brushes, but you can also use it for water slide decals. I have it closed right now because it currently has water on it. Now, I have been asked before, so why do you use water slide decals instead of normal decals when you're painting models? Well, the difference is that these water slide decals, when they go on the parts, they're super flat and super gentle when it goes to that. My gripe with normal regular Bandai decals is that they look bulky and they just look ugly when you put them on parts, especially if you're painting your kit. You want to make sure that you give it that extra detail, that extra love, and just using a sticker sheet on these parts, it just looks, to me, it just looks bad altogether if you went through the trouble of painting this kit to this point. Now, there are dry transfer decals, and although I do prefer dry transfer, that's not always recommended, or sometimes the sheets that they bring, they're not too extensive, so they don't have a lot of them. So then I just default back into water slide decals. So let's go ahead and cut up these decals that for this shield and start putting them on. so now that we have applied the water slide decals for these parts, we're going to let them dry for a couple of hours, and then after that we're going to head to the paint station so we can go ahead and spray that top coat. Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back. Now for this part right here, I already went ahead and got the parts on an alligator clip. I kind of pressed it in between the part itself since a polycap goes there anyway, and we're going to go ahead and spray this with some top coat. Now this is the final step for your part, so if you have reached up to this step following all my tutorials right now, the end result should be the same no matter what top coat you use. You should have a finished product looking great with some pre-shade, and then move on from there. All right, so for the clear that we're going to use today, we're going to use Mr. Color GX. This is super smooth clear. I love the flat for the Mr. Super Smooths, so definitely recommend this if you're trying to use clears. Now don't get me wrong, I do use the other Mr. Color clears, however the GX line is probably my favorite when it comes to that, so went ahead and diluted it prior to making this video just so we can go ahead and use this for this video. Now let's go ahead and spray the part and then go from there. All right, everyone, so welcome back to the table. Now that we've gone ahead and we've panel lined, put the water slides on, top coated our kit, the part is finally finished. And I want you to look at the actual finish for this piece. And that is how you paint your model kit. Basically, what I was trying to do with this series of videos was try to give you guys a rundown of what to do when you start painting your models. Basically, just try to lose that fear when you're trying to paint your model kit, thinking that you're going to mess it up. Look, you are going to make mistakes along the line. I didn't just get to this point. I made a lot of mistakes when I started painting my models. And, you know, just because I have a little bit of skill now, because I wouldn't say that that my skill is perfect, because I can definitely learn more stuff, and I do learn things every day. And one thing I can tell you is that, you know, you can't be fearful. You can't be fearful about making mistakes. You can't have fear of, you know, ruining the parts or having to repaint a part. That is just something that you just can't do when you're painting. You have to make sure that you're sure of yourself, that you go ahead and do the best that you can, and if it doesn't work out, then just try it again. Simple as that. Hope you guys like my content. If you do like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. That actually helps the channel grow. And I will see you all next time for the next series of tutorial.